Hello and welcome to all the truth seekers that have joined us today from around the world. I'm glad that you've decided to join our online community. For the next hour, GMDC will help you uncover new ideas that will push your thinking inside and outside of your business. My name is Mark McKelsey, and I lead the people and the projects that brings you insights, shopper trends, and next practices from Global Market Development Center. This Infocast is really intended to make your lunch hour profitable by demonstrating just how the curiosity and the power of the consumer must be at the center of your strategy. In other words, the way you've done things in the past is not the way your future success will happen. Retailers and brands more than ever must be adaptive and in constant flux in order to connect with evolving populations. So, how you respond to this session is important. Without further ado, let's jump in. I'm coming to you live from Colorado Springs and have Andrea Leigh joining me from Ideoclick in Seattle today. This Infocast is going to help you find the so what and the how-to behind various strategies as you sell products on Amazon. If you're looking to transform your business and convert views into clicks at a higher rate than before, you're watching the right session. Did you know that 90% of customers on Amazon use search to find products, and if you're not on the first page, you literally don't exist? We want you to learn how to master those algorithms and find out ways to optimize your content and boost your Amazon sales. Today, we look forward to revealing advice on how to win search by improving your product detail pages. Since Amazon is responsible for almost half of e-commerce sales today, and winning on Amazon means mastering its search engine dynamics, if your product is not on the first page on Amazon search results, you're basically not on the digital shelf. Relevance determines what order products show up in search results and thus drives sales. But how do you boost your relevance? With that said, welcome, Andrea. Would you help our viewers know a little bit more about what they can expect to learn today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mark, and glad to be here today. So today we're going to dive into Amazon's search algorithm. We're going to understand the underpinnings of the algorithm and the different components of it. Hopefully that level of transparency will provide you with what you need to boost your sales rank on Amazon.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Before we get started and dive in, I'd like to remind our viewers that we can take questions during or after the session by using the Q&A button at the top of your screen. We'll get to those at the end of the hour. So let's get started. Back over to you, Andrea.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to dissect Amazon's search relevance algorithm. So we're going to kind of dive into the details around that. And then we'll talk a little bit, focusing specifically on the one component that will influence today, which is that search and sales winning content on the product detail pages. We'll run through some takeaways and then we'll have some time at the end to go through some Q&A. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrea Leigh and I'm the Vice President of Services, Client Services here at Ideoclick. I run our catalog, services, content writing, and account management teams here. I also lead our advisory practice. Prior to my time here at Ideoclick, I did independent consulting for about 2.5 years, helping manufacturers with their Amazon strategy. And then before that, I spent 10 years at Amazon as a category leader. I worked across a variety of different categories during my time there, but spent most of my time in consumables, in baby, health and personal care, grocery, and Amazon Fresh. So just a little bit about Ideoclick. We are a managed services provider. We provide full end-to-end white glove management of your Amazon business. Everything from marketing, automation, and management, strategy and execution, catalog management, advisory and training programs, kind of like our talk today. We also provide hybrid selling and operational support and different reporting and analytics tools through our portal. We've been doing this since about 2009 and have collectively, our claim to fame is over 200, I think it's over 100 years of collective past Amazon experience. This is our leadership team here, and probably familiar with some of these folks as well. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about the importance of winning search. So I once heard someone say that you could hide a dead body on the second page of Amazon search results and no one would find it. And it's true because most consumers do not visit the second page of search results. So just kind of starting at the top, Amazon collects roughly half of product searches on the web in general. And of those, most customers, 80% stay on the first page. And it's interesting that most of them even actually buy something within the first 3 results. And probably a lot of folks know that nowadays those first 3 results are taken up with sponsored product campaigns. Given that they're highly relevant to the consumer and to the search, and given the thresholds around Amazon advertising, those search results end up being really relevant to consumers, and they are certainly clicking on them. So we need to be on the first page. Just to review for those of you that may or may not be kind of more familiar with Amazon, Amazon is an algorithm. It's a platform and an algorithm, and it has an engine that is a series of inputs and outputs. And the inputs that it collects from consumer behavior are things like glance views and different pricing inputs from external sources. It looks at purchase data. It takes search data into account, product info. It takes all of this into its engine, and then it spits out a series of outputs. And search ranking is one of those outputs that we're going to focus on today. Other outputs include other automated marketing, email blasts, automation and personalization. People who bought this also bought this. For today's purposes, we're going to focus on that search ranking. So there are 3 main components of Amazon's search relevance algorithm. Relevance determines the order that products show up in search results. The very first one, and the one that we're going to spend probably most of our time on today, is the search term that the customer is searching on the actual product page somewhere. And we'll talk a little bit about what some somewheres matter more than other somewheres. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The other things that are important in the search relevance algorithm, the second most important is the item retail ready for Amazon? So RRFA, that's something we talk about a lot here at Ideoclick. Most of our service pillars kind of line up around making items retail ready. And these, we'll dive into this in a little more detail, but these are things like, is the product in stock and winning the buy box? Are there reviews present in good quantity of them? Is the review quality good, et cetera? And then lastly, what are there and how strong are the customer interest indicators? So things like hits and conversion and sales velocity. Now, for anyone who's ever, kind of going back to the Amazon as an algorithm piece, for anyone who's ever changed a UPC on Amazon or had to change their ASIN, you'll experience what we call the dark side of relevance, and that's over here on the left, and that's Amazon's algorithm and system collecting a lot of data on a product, and then the product changing the UPC, and all of that data starting from 0, essentially, because Amazon's system doesn't have any data anymore. And we experience kind of similar effects with products going out of stock. So unlike another e-commerce player, maybe like a Walmart or something, when the product comes back into stock, you return to your normal sales velocity. On Amazon, depending on the severity and length of the out of stock, that's not always the case. You don't always get your search position back right away. Sometimes it takes some time to earn it back for the system, the algorithm, to collect enough data to kind of push it back to that position. So let's hone in on this. Is the search term on the page? So there are parts of the page that matter a lot for content and for search relevance, specifically Amazon search. And there are other places that Amazon's internal search doesn't look. So look, and I will tell you, more often than not, we come across manufacturers who say, I'm not showing up for this specific search term, even though my item is retail ready. So why am I not showing up? More often than not, we find that actual search term is just not on the page, or it's not in the right place. And by adding it, we're able to ensure that the item secures a higher search relevance. So the product title is really important, finding ways to work key search terms into the product title. Bullet points are important, product description and attributes. These are all the places that Amazon's internal search algorithm scrapes when it's looking for search terms. The other place is the hidden keywords. They're not evident on the page, but they're included sort of on the back end of the page when you're setting your items up. You'll note that A+ content is not on here, and it's because it's not included in Amazon's search relevance algorithm, because it's considered to be manufacturer supplied copy or marketing copy. And that doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't do it. There are still a lot of other reasons to focus on A+ content. As we covered earlier, about Amazon's only capturing about half of product searches on the internet. The rest of them are going through other search engines such as Google, primarily manufacturer websites, etc. And because of that, those are really important reasons to focus on A+ content, because Google does in fact scrape the whole page when it's indexing for search. So let's talk a little bit about retail readiness for Amazon, RRFA. So this is kind of the second component of, and we'll come back to content in a little bit and share some examples of like winning content and some case studies. Retail readiness on Amazon's in stock and winning the buy box. If you're not in stock, you're not on the shelf, you're not able to gain the sale. Amazon dings products pretty heavily in search relevance for not being in stock. In some categories, the products won't show up in search at all, such as consumables. Products have to have a competitive price relative to external competitors, relative to other products on Amazon. Obviously, goes without saying, customer reviews are really critical here. And then lastly, having solid or at least completely filled out PDP content. So product detail page content, having some really strong content there. And then lastly, the products have to be profitable for Amazon. Amazon doesn't want to continue to promote products that are not profitable for them. That seems logical and in their best interest. And so making sure that the economic structure for the products is healthy for Amazon. So in thinking about search relevance, how do you influence it? We talked a little bit about retail readiness. We talked about having content on your pages. Really thinking also about those customer interest indicators. What are some ways that you can influence a customer interest indicator? And in short, it's just drive more sales. So, we talked about adding more search terms to the pages, and we'll get into that in a little more detail too. Driving sales through short-term promotions. You can certainly use AMS campaigns. We talked earlier about how the first 3 search results tend to get the most clicks. In a lot of categories, those are sponsored products or ad campaigns now. So using AMS to help drive sales, and as a result, improving the natural search relevance of the products. A lot of customers or clients come to us and they want to know, how do they improve their customer reviews on Amazon, or how do they increase reviews? And there are a lot of services out there that'll help with that. Most are against Amazon's policies. The really straightforward way to get more reviews in the sort of above board white hat way is to just sell more product. The studies show that on average, roughly 5% of consumers will review product. So running promotional events or marketing to help encourage that behavior, will drive reviews as well. There's some other things kind of around item data integrity that may help. So thinking about product variations. If you have different flavors of a product and they're not linked together through a variated set on Amazon, it might be wise to do so. It will allow your strong product to show up higher in search relevance and kind of carry maybe the less strong flavor along with it. In addition, variations are kind of generally a much better customer experience to present the customer with all of the different options kind of on one single product detail page. And another way that's becoming increasingly kind of popular and important is driving your own traffic to Amazon. So using social channels or affiliate websites or affiliate marketing influencers, whatever it is, to drive traffic to Amazon to look specifically at your products. And again, product glance views or hits to product detail pages are customer interest indicators, and that's really important for search relevance. So we often get the question, especially recently as Amazon's rolling out more and more badges, do Amazon badges drive sales? So are these important in helping improve sales within search? And yes, they do. In fact, Profitero released this study kind of earlier this summer showing that you get more product page glance views on your products if you have one of these badges, and that the conversion rate is improved. And it makes sense, right? Because it's an endorsement either from Amazon or potentially from customers. We often get the question, how do you get a badge? And badges can be really effective. You know, they don't necessarily move your product from the second page to the first page of search results. They don't necessarily affect your search position, but they do affect the consumer's selection of products after they place a search on Amazon. So things we know about the badges, they're dynamic. So they're not, you don't always have the badge or always not have the badge, similar to the add-on program or Amazon search sales rank. It's dynamic, so it can change over time. We do know that retail readiness for Amazon is a really critical factor in badges. So you don't get the badge, obviously, if your product's not in stock. We've seen it be less likely to get the badge if your product is unprofitable for Amazon or crap. And, you know, depending on the different badge, whether it's Amazon's Choice or bestseller is obviously linked to the sales velocity for the product. So sales is a key factor. Kind of going back to retail readiness for Amazon, reviews, PDP content, all of that stuff matters. And in some categories, they're for sale. So, you know, we've had examples of clients in very specific categories in Amazon kind of be pitched these as a sales opportunity for Amazon's Choice specifically. So a little bit around advertising. You know, as we learned earlier, most of the clicks go to the first 3 products. A lot of those are ads. There's been a lot of discussion in the ecosystem, especially recently. Recode put out an article showing kind of the sheer quantity of products search results that are now ads, because they're not just at the top anymore, like they're kind of scattered throughout the middle and sometimes at the end, and particularly for really head-driven search terms like baby food or laundry detergent. And it was interesting, this survey was put out by CPC Strategy on the left, and 65% of consumers say they rarely notice the ads on Amazon, which I thought was interesting. And then 25% said they were actually useful and relevant. And I think that's, you know, that's the trend, and that's the direction that we're headed. Is highly customized advertising is actually considered non-intrusive and potentially even welcome. So faking it till you make it until you make it can be a really good strategy to help improve your sales velocity and get some traction on all those customer interest indicators, provided the products are retail ready. And help the natural search relevance take hold. So, you know, Amazon advertising is one of the most effective tools to drive sales on Amazon. It can be particularly useful if you have a new product that you're trying to get off the ground that doesn't have a lot of data behind it yet, you know, or if you're trying to, you know, trade customers up or inform them about other products in your line. So let's kind of start diving into some actual content. So these are 2 different products. The brand on the left, when you would search dog harness, it did not show up on the first page of search results. And it was pretty easy to see why when I dug into it, and it was because they actually didn't have dog anywhere on the page. It wasn't in the title, it wasn't in the bullets. It wasn't in any of the content below. Surprisingly, even though it is a dog harness, there was a term that just sort of got missed. On the flip side, the product on the right is the one that turned up at the top of the search results. So, you know, and obviously, you know, there's dog kind of within the title. They're citing a lot of rich keyword content here. And, you know, citing different sizes of dogs, different breeds of dogs, and adjustable, you know, no choke design, padded vest, eco-friendly. There are a lot of really rich keywords here. So from a just sheer is the term on the page question, the product on the right is definitely the winner, more likely to turn up for more searches. Digging in a little deeper, that's obviously not the only reason that the product on the left didn't show up on the first page. And I apologize if the Pet Safe folks are on the call today. But it was really about some other components of the product detail page. And it's some of it was retail readiness. The product on the left, were a number of the sizes and colors that were out of stock. Other components of retail readiness were around the reviews. Obviously, the one on the right has a lot more reviews. I think we all know that helps search relevance on Amazon. The price point was really different. The product on the right had filled out all of the image slots. So you can kind of see the difference between, maybe something that looks more like best in class content and a PDP and something that has some opportunity, certainly. Now, we get the question a lot around, where on the page should we put the search terms? Are there places that are more important than others? And, there's not outside of making sure that it's in one of the slots we talked about, title, bullets, product description, or attributes. It doesn't really matter. In fact, some of the longer titles, this is probably kind of the max of what we would look at, but some of the longer titles don't render super well on mobile. It's really easy for us to forget to look at our products on our mobile devices because we're often sitting behind our desks at our computers all day, but the rest of the world's all shopping on mobile, more than 60%. So, making sure you keep those titles kind of with some keyword content, but also kind of succinct is important. So let's talk about how to approach the content. Because it's one thing to say you need to have a lot of search terms on your page, and the question we always get is, well, how do I know what are good search terms for my product? And a common mistake that we see is kind of taking that packaging copy that you have on your products and actually just translating it directly to the Amazon detail page. Consumers aren't shopping based on the attributes that typically show up on package copy. That's kind of your sell copy. That's your conversion copy. That's in a skincare product that might say that the product promises to have, an improvement in like the clarity of skin or glowing skin or beautiful skin. Those aren't necessarily the same terms that a customer is searching. They're doing needs-based searches. So they're searching for moisturizer for oily skin, moisturizer for acne-prone skin, moisturizer for combination skin. So an example of that might be, where your product copy might normally have a bullet that says works for all skin types. You actually want it to say works for oily skin, combination skin, acne-prone skin, kind of spelling out all of the different potential needs. Having that really kind of descriptive content is important. Looking through the customer reviews is often really telling. There are a lot of terms that customers will use in the reviews that are important components and features of your product that you might not be thinking to include in your content. So making sure to mine those reviews for key search terms as well. It kind of goes without saying to use all the space available. Most manufacturers we work with, when we run our tool on their items, we typically see them using somewhere between 20 and 35% of the available character counts, and there's just so much more there, and it's free, so you might as well use it. And then another thing we often see get overlooked are, especially if it's a technical product or a consumable product or something that has ingredients, just sort of not filling out those attributes, and they're all searchable within the Amazon search algorithm, so it's important to keep those all populated and accurate and up to date. As for other components of the product detail page, using all of the available image spaces, especially on mobile. I mean, the data is showing, I think I have a slide. Yeah, I have a slide on this, that consumers are actually looking at all of the images on desktop and mobile. Also, if you don't fill out all the image slots, third-party contributions can attach to your products and fill out the remaining image slots. So it's another good reason to kind of block all the image slots from being populated by third-party content. But looking at some of that conversion content. So the search terms are what get, and the retail readiness for Amazon and the customer interest indicators are what get your products into the search results. After they land on your page, then we need to think about the conversion content. And so, the data is showing that most customers are not looking below, on a desktop version below the fold, And on mobile, not really looking below the, scrolling through all the images, but often not actually scrolling down to look at the rest of the page at all. And you can see why, because especially on the mobile experience, everything you need's right there on that first page before you have to scroll. You get the price, you get the reviews, information, you get all the images, and the images are the new bullet points. So figuring out ways to kind of call attention to key features of the product within the actual images is what is going to convert customers. You know, once they get to that product page, once you've done what you need to do to drive your search relevance, you actually want to win the sale at that point, and that's when it's important to focus on some of this conversion copy. So these are just a few examples of some of the more powerful conversion content that we've seen. And, you know, really here, a lot of this is happening within the A+ space. So we talked earlier about how A+ is not included in Amazon's internal search algorithm, and that's correct. It doesn't help drive your search relevance. It's not going to help you get, we believe you get a small boost in search relevance for having it or not having it, but it doesn't matter really what's on it. But if you've already gotten the customer to your page, you know, you want to really focus on the conversion. And these are some kind of examples of pretty strong and winning conversion content. First, using video in the image slot. There's now video in A+ as well. So that's a really critical for a lot of product categories. And this is an example of denim where they actually have a video of someone walking out and turning around so you can kind of see the jeans in action. But I've seen video being used really effectively in categories such as strollers to show how the stroller folds up, you know, coffee makers to show how you load it and program it and turn it on. And obviously they want to be short. There are whole seminars you can go to on best practices around video, but that's definitely a best practice in terms of helping with conversion on the product detail pages. Other things that have been really useful are having some type of imagery, preferably in the image block, but also maybe later on the page, that shows the relative size and scale of the product. Again, this gets a lot more important as you start talking about products that are difficult to size. I can't tell you how many times on Amazon Fresh I've either ordered the teeny tiny ketchup or the really big ketchup, because it's really hard to tell the difference between the two of them, or at least used to be. So making sure to give some relative size and scale of the product is important. We've launched at Ideoclick these kind of bubbles that help show the count size. So sometimes on mobile, some of the title is it's not easily visible, or maybe you don't want to read it. So having kind of that count actually right on the main image so consumers can see what they're getting right away can help with conversion. And then there are also a couple of examples on here of comparison charts. So the one across denim, and then the one across you know, some of the different products you know, within the cosmetics category to help call customers' attention to the differentiating features of each of the products. So these are just a few examples. There are a lot of manufacturers doing this really well right now, but here are a few that we've kind of seen recently. So let's talk a little bit about search treatments and some of the interrupters, because these are becoming a lot more common in different categories on Amazon. So one that we've seen recently pop up in some different categories are the expert recommendations. And this is, you know, this is pulling together some information from best reviews, and it's essentially attempting to curate Amazon's assortment and provide the consumer with more limited options. And what's interesting is a couple of these are from a recent search I did on essential oils, and you can see that they had sponsored ads across the top, then they had the expert recommendations, top rated from our brands. And so the natural search was like really far down the page. So figuring out a way to integrate with some of these different programs is becoming more and more important. So the expert recommendations is interesting. Looking at some of the our brands, obviously this is Amazon's private label. You can always go partner with Amazon on some of their private label, which they're rolling out at a pretty fast clip across most product categories. I'm happy to talk about private label in the Q&A because I think we have a lot of experience working with manufacturers where they've had private label launched in their categories. And then in fashion, they're focused on the top brands. So that kind of pushes some of the search content down. We do know customers click on these. As soon as one of these launches in a category, whoever was winning sort of the natural search for those search terms definitely sees an impact to their business. So figuring out ways to either integrate with some of these programs, or if you have these launching in your categories, unfortunately, figuring out ways to increase the Amazon advertising spend so that you're still able to show up at the top of the page is important. There's an example here down on the left for the home gift guide. This is interesting. They've started doing this within the last few years, actually giving like we call it a search treatment to a product that's included in one of the gift guides. I think the holiday toy list has the same treatment. If you're pitched a merchandising program that does include a search treatment, it's worth looking at it. Generally speaking, Amazon's merchandising programs aren't super effective in driving a lot of sales, or at least it's difficult to get your hands on metrics that will show you that they were effective in driving sales. But if you're given some sort of search treatment, it definitely calls the consumer's eye to the products in the search results, and it can be really impactful. So just a few takeaways, and then we can move to Q&A. So first, just really remembering that you control search relevance, and you control that by making sure that your products are retail ready for Amazon. You also control it by ensuring that you have the right copy on your page to drive traffic, and making sure that you are turning up for the search terms that are important for you in your category. And then lastly, making sure to drive that conversion copy on the product detail page. If you've done the work to get the consumer to the page, let's make sure we can figure out how to convert them. And I think we have some time left if any folks have questions. I see a couple of them coming through right now.
Well, thanks, Andrea. We do have a few questions, and we'll go ahead and get to those. Elizabeth is asking, if one is launching with six SKUs, for instance, should variated SKUs be set up right away or after a ramp-up period?
Yeah, so this is interesting. We get a lot of questions about variations, and there's a real strategy to it. So first of all, start with the customer. If it makes sense to put products together, you should consider putting the products together. But you can't over-variate, so it's definitely possible to, I'm just gonna close this. So it's definitely possible to over-variate where you have different sizes, different flavors, different colors, and it's too confusing of a customer experience. Other reasons not to variate would be if you're already winning the top 3 or some more than one natural search result on the first page, I would not encourage a variation of those products, because even though it might be like a slightly better customer experience to have them on the same page, you're now giving up one of the first page slots to a competitor to have their product float to the first page. So we worked with a manufacturer recently who had several different flavors of product. They were all, lucky for them, really popular. When you would search for really basic head keyword terms in the category, their products would all come up in separate search results. And in that case, unless Amazon forces it or does it on their end, I would not encourage variating a product. If you have products, if you're launching several flavors at one time, I think it totally makes sense to put them all together. And the reason for that is the search relevance is somewhat aggregate. So if you have a number of products that all need a little bit of a boost and they make sense to go together in a set, figuring out how to get those variated from the get-go will allow you to combine the customer reviews. We've been told that Amazon is going to start making customer reviews like size, color, and flavor, et cetera, specific, but so far we haven't seen it actually happen, so they're still aggregated, and so it helps give you a sales boost in kind of one of those retail ready factors.
Craig is asking,
oh yeah, go ahead.
How do I get an A+ account
so that I can add videos?
Yeah, so it's we haven't seen it consistently applied across all of the categories yet, but a number of the categories have a new A+ templates to work with, and you're able to put A+ kind of within the product page. And so if you're working with a vendor manager at Amazon, that would be a good first place to start.
Dana is asking, should you stop using AMS when you think you have enough traction?
That's a great question. So the answer is it depends, and the answer is also knowable if you have access to ARE Premium, or if you use a service provider that has some software that will tell you this. So we looked at 2 different manufacturers. So this is kind of like the same question as, should I keep bidding on, within AMS, should I keep bidding on my own brand name? So within 2 different manufacturers, both were bidding on their own brand name. And usually when someone conducts a branded search, your products show up at the top anyway. So the question is, should I spend money on those ads if I'm already going to be at the top of the natural search results? Well, one reason to keep doing it is just so your competitors don't. It's a defensive strategy. But does it impact your sales if you don't? Across these 2 manufacturers, we got completely different results. One, and granted their brand loyalty was a little bit stronger, we removed the branded ads and saw absolutely no impact to the sales. And you can look this up in ARE Premium. You can actually see the products, the top 3 products that a consumer purchased after running a specific search. So this is how we were able to know. For the other manufacturer, when we removed the branded ads, we actually saw that another product crept into the top 3. So, and that product gained like 20% of the conversions. So there is not a one size fits all answer to that. I think it's important to do some A/B testing and look within the data to see what happens.
Alex Shikulis from Retail 360, and also a former GMDC education leader, by the way, just a little bit of a shout out, is asking, is it practical to have 2 to 3 manufacturers bundle their complementary brands, such as seasonal, barbecue weekends, back to school, etc.?
Bundles are interesting. And in my experience on Amazon, unless you're doing like a variety pack, which is kind of a very specific type of bundle where you're encouraging trial across a different like consumable product set, outside of those, bundles typically don't perform really well on Amazon. I think they're really difficult to message to the customer. And in addition to that, you're attempting to bifurcate some of the traffic that would have gone to one product or the other, and now sort of create a new product and drive traffic to that. And that can be challenging and expensive.
Jimmy is asking, so when do you do discounts for Cyber Monday? Amazon wants to do 25% off retail. So if you're willing to sell Amazon for $5 and they retail for $10, so to finance the 20%, they take the $2 discount off wholesale. This is a long question. So
I know, I'm looking at it at the same time as you.
Are you looking at the same one? So try to track along with me. So you end up selling them for $3 and they retail for $8. This sounds like a case study. Is this how they always do discounts to boost sales? Then they discount from $3 on top of that. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, the specific example is kind of difficult to follow, but I can definitely speak to kind of how Amazon manages discounts, which are if you're providing them with a discount, they're, and it's meant to be promotional, it's typically just passed along to the customer in full form, unless you're giving them some kind of crap allowance or something to help boost the profitability. This typically just allows them, if you're running a promotion, they attempt to pass the entire promotion on to consumers. I don't know how that is different or the same than other retailers. I think some retailers, you pay them a funding and they handle some of the discounting, or maybe, you're agreeing in the beginning of the year to some kind of promotional calendar. But typically for Amazon's deals, if you're funding a deal, it's all passed on to the consumer.
One more question. Mark is asking, if a product fits in more than one category, how do you decide which category is best? The less competitive category or the more competitive category?
Yeah, this is a great question. And the lucky thing for you on Amazon is that you don't have to choose one category. you can choose more than one. The category, the financial category that you're assigned, or like the designated category that you work with, like maybe that's grocery or health and personal care, doesn't change, but that doesn't affect where it can show up on the website. So you can have your products cross-listed. For example, you can have your products cross-listed across multiple product categories, as is the case with, a lot of baby products often show up like within health and personal care browse nodes and within the baby category browse nodes. So the products can be listed and cross-listed across multiple categories.
Well, Andrea, thanks again for your time today, and we appreciate your insights. We've done several of these this year, and we hope to have you back in 2019 as well.
Great. Thanks for having me, Mark, and thanks to everyone for attending.
If this is your first time attending a GMDC Infocast, I'd like to make sure that you're aware that this session and all previous Infocast events can be viewed on the Archive tab on gmdcconnect.org, along with a schedule to register for our future events. If you've liked Andrea's presentation today, we have several from this year, even as well as last year, that are very relevant to your business. So please go back in to our Archive tab, register for those, and feel free to watch. Let me know if you have any questions as well. I'd also like to encourage you to get involved with GMDC and become a member if you're not already. Today's Infocast is a small sample of what members have access to. GMDC is a business ecosystem that helps you connect, collaborate, create, and enable commerce in the general merchandise and health, beauty, wellness industry. For more information, please contact me at markm@gmdc.org, and I'd love to help you find opportunities to get your company exposed to high-profile executives and those who can truly transform your business. Thanks for joining us today. Take care.